Oh, it's not a cut. That's a slice.
Now this is a quack hook.
Oh,
Short
wow.
and into the right rough, headed to the trees.
Oh my God, it's a shank. He decided to re-tee. That's a shank. Oh, man.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Two-Way Miss podcast. Very happy you can be joining us this evening, this morning, wherever you might be listening and or watching. Again, we are on the YouTube, the streak. We're on the YouTube streak. We're up to 5 subscribers. Got a total of 40 plus views on both the episodes that are up there so far. So thank you everybody out there who's been watching and listening. We appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the new intro that we just ran. Just, threw a couple of golf clips in there that we think are pretty funny. We're trying to find a special one, but we'll, if you hear a little bit of a difference, you'll know why. We're trying to find one more pretty good one. But, as always, we have to say hello to the good buddy Banksy. Banksy, how you doing tonight, bud?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
Doing well.
Good to see you now, as always. So there's a couple things we wanted to talk about tonight. We're gonna kind of jump all over the place. There's a couple of different topics that we wanted to bring up and talk about. But first, we're gonna start with the Farmers Insurance Open. Yes, we're actually gonna talk about the golf tournament that happened over the weekend because there was a pretty good finish, and it involved someone that we talk about a lot on this podcast, the one and only Willy. It involved Willy.
Rookie of the year, baby.
He was out there, clean shaven and blonde haired, and his putting yips going all over the place. It was a tough one for Will. Hit a pretty good shot into the 18th at the end of regulation, had a birdie putt. That, I don't know if you watched it, man, but that thing broke so much right before the hole.
On the last couple
snapped.
rolls, it almost, it hit a blade of grass or something pointing the opposite direction.
It was crazy.
Or he just didn't have the balls to hit the putt hard enough.
Well, he didn't do that. That's true.
It's
poor Will.
Tentative stroke. He didn't want it.
He had the pretty bad yips. I think he almost whiffed a putt like a couple tournaments ago. The last time we might have seen him play. He comes back with the arm lock putter. It's not helped his stroke. He's still swinging, stroking like a figure eight.
It has not helped.
And hitting everything like off the toe. And it doesn't, especially when they do those really close up zoom ins on the putter face, it does not look good for Will when he's doing that.
The cameraman's like,
he's like
shaking,
he's giggling,
but it's not.
He's giggling while he's watching it.
Yeah, it's a little unsettling to see, and you know what? Especially, does your putting stroke get better over time? Usually when you're in that young 20s range and you have no fear, you're just putting the shit out of the ball. Does your putting stroke get better?
I guess maybe
over the
you
years?
would hope that you like build up some scar tissue and you kind of figure it out. Like maybe you get a certain coach or you go to see somebody that can help you out.
Putt with your wedge, man.
Yeah, maybe. A little hybrid putter. Get the a little bit bigger face. But dude, that dude can ball strike though. Like, say what you will about his putting, but
the Odyssey, the Happy Gilmore, the hockey stick putter.
Listen, I had one of those. Oh, there you go.
You had one? What?
No, I thought you were gonna go. I thought you were gonna go into the Odyssey, and I was gonna talk about my old white hot.
Oh no,
So
sorry, we're not going.
It. You went into Odyssey, and then you went Happy Gilmore, and I got caught.
Well, it was an Odyssey. The movie, it was an Odyssey.
That's right.
Putter. Yeah,
struck the crap out of the ball. Like played really well. Just that putter's going to be an issue. John Rahm again coming out playing really well.
Man, I enjoy watching him, and I enjoy watching him because he's freaking good every week.
Yeah.
Right now, he's not one of those guys that plays good for a week or two, and then you don't hear for him for 6 months.
Yeah.
Like he's just out balling every week.
And possibly did not play anywhere near his best.
Right,
and
but he's
still
that
was in the
good.
top 5.
Yeah. And I appreciate when the best players do what they're supposed to do. Like he's supposed to be in the mix
Yeah.
every week. And it seems like he is. And I appreciate that because these other guys, they're not doing it for me. You know, you look through the top 10 in the world and it's like, well, why? They pop up here and there, but they're not there every week, every time they tee it up. So I appreciate John Rahm's consistency.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it says a lot to probably how good he's going to be this year that it wasn't the strongest field in the world, but he did not play his best and was clearly one of the better golfers there. And like if he even gets his game going a little bit, he probably blows those guys out of the water at a place that he's, you know, won a major and got his first win at and all this other stuff. So he obviously is comfortable there. And gosh, he's just nothing is, you know, he had that Ryder Cup, took some time off and has come back absolutely on par with how he was playing last year.
I just appreciate that he's there. It's what you're supposed to do.
Where did Justin Thomas finish this week?
Who cares?
I kind of want to look that up. I'm going to look that up.
He started off hot, I think, right? Was that this week?
Yeah.
And then gone.
Yeah, I'm going to look that up while we're talking about it.
Frustrated. Do I put too much emphasis on that? Do I get too frustrated with these guys that are the top players in the entire world?
All right, he finished T20. Not great.
I mean, maybe.
I think we've talked about this a lot on this podcast, but we can't help but be influenced by the guy we grew up watching, which was Tiger Woods.
Yeah, and even before him, you know, you have a Jack Nicklaus, who, you know, I got sucked into that rabbit hole a couple weeks ago watching those Golf Channel movies.
Oh yeah,
Jack Nicklaus.
Yeah,
you can't help but watch it. It's like when Shawshank Redemption's on, you just have to watch it. You can't turn it off.
Yeah,
and like you had that talent in Jack Nicklaus, and then of course we're spoiled beyond belief with Tiger. I just don't. It just will always bother me, and you won't be able to convince me otherwise that, you know, these guys that are the top in the world, when they're in a tournament, I expect them to be somewhere on or close to the first page of the leaderboard, and it's annoying when they're not.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think it makes it. I think the biggest thing for me as a golf guy, you know, a golf nut, is it makes it hard to root for these guys all the time. Like, you could root for Tiger all the time because you knew he was going to give you something. It's the same thing like when people say, like, why did you like MJ? Why did you like LeBron? Maybe not so much anymore, but why did you like Kobe? You know what I mean? Like, why were so many people drawn to that type of guy? It's because they brought it every single time they stepped out there. They expected to win and were going to try their best to win. I think.
And that's the thing. You believe when Tiger tees it up and says, if I'm playing, I expect to win. And then you have these other guys that say that. They try and say that. They try and mimic. But are you really?
Yeah,
are you really?
Right, they grew up watching Tiger Woods, right? He's my, great, he's who I compare myself to, all this crap. And it's like, well, you're not paying attention to the right stuff then, dude.
Yeah. You say that, right? You say his words, oh, I'm here to win every time I tee it up. Are you really? Have you put in the necessary work, and are you prepared as you could be?
I mean, it's like you just
enter that tournament to win.
It's like you just said. You brought it up before we started the show. His cut record, right? His missed cut record.
Yeah, it was.
What was it? 140 something events.
Yeah, in a row, like every time he teed it up, like he was making the cut.
Right.
And I think I'm pretty certain the streak ended right after his dad passed away.
It might have been.
It was either the cut streak was then or his major cut streak was that one. It was one of those two.
Right.
But like, it literally takes one of the closest people to you in your life to pass away for you to miss a cut. And I remember that tournament. He was fighting like a dog till the very end to try and make that make that cut. And there was a I think it was a Justin Thomas interview, and I understand we're completely off topic here.
Nope.
4
I love
minutes.
It. Nope. It's all
4
good.
minutes into the show, but I think it was an interview with Justin Thomas, and Justin Thomas was like, "Hey, Tiger, like, dude, what did you do? How did you train?" Tiger's like, "Well, I ran 4 miles at 2:00 in the morning, and then I slept for half an hour, and then I got up and had breakfast, and then I went and played 36 holes of golf, and then I went to the gym, and then I ran 4 more miles." And you know what I mean? And like, you would almost, if you could guarantee some of these guys a major if they follow that regiment for like a year straight, I'd be curious to see realistically how many guys would take you up on that offer. Like, if you do that, if you get up at 4:00 every morning, you're on the track, you're running, you're running hills, you're in the weight room, you're practicing 8 hours a day, you're only sleeping like 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
But if you do that for a year, I'll guarantee you a major. I don't know. I don't know. How many guys take? How many guys say?
Be a ton of notables that would do it.
Like, how many guys say, "All right, I will do that for a year straight, 365 days of," or realistically, how many days in a row Tiger would do that? If you gave that option to them to win a major, would they take you up on it?
I bet less than you think.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
I think it's obviously, and I say this like, I don't disagree with you, because I think that how all these guys like talk about, they only talk about 4 tournaments a year, maybe 5 if you want to throw the players in there, and then obviously on a President's Cup or a Ryder Cup year, like,
yeah, and FedEx. I mean, they throw $15 million at these guys. I guess the FedEx top, but yeah, but overall, you're right.
7 weeks a year.
Yeah, and you have the World Golf Championships, but I don't even think
the
guys
care.
necessarily. They don't care. They don't care.
They don't care. I think I don't. That's why the win record will never be broken. No one will get close to 82.
No.
Like, no one. No one, regardless of what kind of prodigy you are, like, what kind of amateur career you had, like, there will never be a golfer that breaks that record. It's just not going to happen. And it's because I think when you talk about these guys and they do talk about their work ethic, like, they're talking about being on the range and they're talking about playing golf, but I guess for me, I don't ever understand how that can't translate to you playing well on a week-to-week basis. Right. And so if you want to say that you're practicing enough and you want to say that you're playing, all the time, I'm doing the right things, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, like
that's your job. Your job is to be the best at golf. Like, that's your job.
Right. But when you take all that away, what can it come down to other than effort? Like, if you take, if you give them the benefit of the doubt that, okay, you're doing all those things, cool. That just means that when you get out there and you play against other people in a tournament setting, like, you don't have the stones to step up and play your best. Like, you just can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, I hear more guys now than ever. Professional golfers, they'll do it. Yeah, they'll do interviews and be like, "Yeah, I don't really like to practice. I don't practice that much. When I take a month off, I don't touch a club." Like, it's just mind-boggling.
Did you ever hear Tiger Woods utter the phrase, "I just didn't have it this week" during his prime? Like, again, he says it all the time now because he's literally like made more of metal than he is
He's
bones and muscle.
patched together.
Right.
Or hear Tiger say, "You know what? I didn't practice. I didn't practice today."
Yeah, I put the clubs down for 3 weeks and then I just kind of showed up.
Yeah, but you hear that more and more. And I don't know if it's this whole like nonchalant, don't take things so seriously because that's the cool thing to do. But like when you hear these guys just say, "Yeah, I didn't practice."
But like, what?
much."
They don't have that motivation. They're worried about majors. That's all anybody cares about when they talk about your career. And they make so much money
They make a lot of
from
money.
off the course stuff.
Yeah.
You don't need to show up to the Amex that was 2 weeks ago and like bust your ass, right? To beat that field and like make another 750 grand or whatever.
So the wins don't matter. Is
I
that
don't
what
think
you're
I
saying?
don't think the win
They don't-
total. I don't think anyone cares about the win total. Like that Tiger number, I think they just see that as like a distant, one of those this will never be broken kind of things. And I don't think that they don't gear themselves up to play their best every tournament. They only try and gear themselves up for 5 weeks a year, 8 weeks a year. If you want to throw the FedEx Cup playoffs and, tour championship in there.
Yeah.
But then you get into, okay, if that's what you're doing, why do you still come to majors and suck? Like, why does Justin Thomas show up to majors and play terrible? Why does Dustin Johnson show up to majors and miss cuts? I know we can't start talking about DJ because you'll get into it.
That guy, just the physical, the physical specimen, the athleticism, the talent that's there. Freaking wasted, man.
Yeah.
And Patrick Cantlay is going to be the greatest player to ever play golf. 6 months ago, these announcers and journalists saying, where's he been?
When did he play last? I think he played in the Amex.
Probably.
I think he was up there. He was up there near the lead, but then didn't show up on Sunday or something like that.
On Sunday still or Saturday?
Oh yeah, sorry. No, Farmers ended on Saturday, not the Amex. Amex ended on Sunday.
All right. Yeah. So Sunday. It's the most important. Where do you go?
I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I just think to go back to your original question. I don't even know what my original question was.
Am
I overreacting to this? Like, you were essentially asking if, like, do you need to kind of let this go? I think yes, in a sense that it's just not going to happen. These golfers aren't going to think this way. Yeah. And no, in the fact that we shouldn't hold them to a lesser standard just because they don't feel like it. I don't know. Like, if I were a sponsor, would I want you showing up to tournaments and saying, "Yeah, I haven't touched a club in 3 weeks, but I'm here. We'll see how it goes."
Yeah.
How does Amex feel about that? How does Farmers Insurance feel about that when those guys are the biggest ticket draws? Right? You can't have a tournament be successful without top 25 players in the world. It just won't happen. Nobody will show up to watch the tournament. They won't watch it on TV. They won't buy tickets. They just won't. Nobody will care. Yeah. So these guys do all their work to get these guys to show up, right? And it's almost just like, once we get them in the door, who cares? It doesn't matter, right? We got them. We can put them on the poster. We can put it in the TV ad. We can send out the press release, right? John Rahm's coming to the Farmers Insurance Open. Um,
And like,
and I just don't think they're held to any higher standard. And I think
Right.
like from a personal standpoint, they are only gearing up for majors.
and that's the other, like, and that's coming from a place where like we know how hard golf is.
Yeah.
Like we know how hard golf is. Like golf is the never ending mind fuck. Like I get it. I know how hard golf is, but I still think if that is your job that you can put work into every single day and you're supposedly one of the best players in the world, like I still expect you to be there, like grinding something out, getting yourself on the leaderboard, close to the leaderboard,
Yeah. I think
having a strong finish.
yeah. I think the miscut thing is like almost unacceptable for a top 25 player in the world.
Absolutely.
You should never miss a cut unless you're truly like injured or something like that. I'm not saying that you got to like finish top 10 every tournament. There can be weeks, right? The margin for error out there is so razor thin. Like there's not a huge difference in skill between the top 20 player in the world and like the top 100. Like there's just not.
Yeah.
They might do things a little bit better, but it's not by a lot. It's not like it's some sort of huge gap between those those golfers. It's who comes out and plays better. But there also is a level of there are 10 to 15 guys right now in the world who should never miss a cut.
Never miss a cut.
Never.
Right.
You might be able to get to 20 guys if you really wanted to, see what that list looked like. But you should never miss a cut. Never.
Right. Agreed. And I know, I know it's tough. You can't play every week too, but like you're in season. Again, this is your job. This is your season.
And that even goes back to you talking about you're not playing every week. So what's your excuse then?
Yeah.
Right. What's the excuse for missing a cut?
Yeah.
When
it's either I play too much, I need a break, or I play too much, and I'm not going to practice. I'm not going to practice when I don't play. So then I need a couple tournaments to get back into shape. It's just play. Yeah, just play and be better.
Yeah,
I don't know.
The ultimate level of frustration for me is when these top 15 guys in the world show up to a major and miss a cut. How is that possible?
Yeah, that's unacceptable.
It just can't happen. It can't happen. I think that's what's disappointed me so much in Justin Thomas over these past few years. Like he's openly talked about gearing himself up for majors. And then you show up to majors and you just lay an egg. Yeah. You just don't play well.
Dustin Johnson did the same thing.
Like it just should never happen. It should never happen.
Yeah, I don't want to hear any shit from Koepka either. Like I get it. Okay, we'll give him an injury pass from last year.
Yeah.
And I know he bleached his hair, trying a new look, trying a new
like Slim Shady from the MTV Awards in the 90s.
Yeah, so like where's he going to be? Because he's one of those guys that's like, oh, I only care about majors and I'm going to win majors. And I'm just so much better than everybody else because I'm going to come out and win majors. And
if you were that much better than everybody else, you'd win every tournament you stepped onto.
So,
regardless of when it is.
So, yeah. So, I mean, are we like, we sound like we're not golf fans or we're such huge.
I think it's the opposite.
Such huge fans.
Yeah.
We're such huge fans. We expect these players to perform.
I think it's the opposite. I think we're not laying this expectation on every player who tees it up during the week, right? We're very clearly defining that if you are considered a top 15 player in the world, there just shouldn't be an excuse to miss a cut. Forget winning. Like, let's just take that completely out of the equation. Like, forget it. Just make the cut.
Make the cut. I agree. 100%.
You have to be better than 50% of the golfers that are there.
Right.
As a top 15 player in the world, that should not be an issue. And if it comes down to it, the only logical answer I can see, apart from injury, is that you just weren't trying hard enough. What other reason could they be? You've clearly shown you're more talented than most people. You talk about how much you practice and work on it, and
and your
that.
therapy and your therapist,
your sports
and your sports
psychologist,
psychologist, and your
mental coach,
hyperbaric chambers, and your.
And it's like, okay, if we give you the benefit of the doubt that you're doing all the things,
right? You got 3 swing coaches at every tournament with you. You have your personal masseuse and physical therapist. Like, then go out and play.
Yeah. I think the thing is that we're so desperate in golf, and it's one of the things that for golf, I think it's a little bit different than some other sports, or most all other sports, where if you're a superstar in the NFL, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, right? They only miss games due to injuries, right? Other than that, they are out there every week trying their tails off, and they're there. Like, Patrick Mahomes doesn't sit out the second half because he doesn't want to play, or he just or if he threw 2 interceptions, he's not going to sit out the second half, and then say, "Oh, I just didn't have it this week." Sorry.
Right.
But it's
maybe I'll play next week.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. I might just need, I just might need to put the football down, and give my arm a break. It just doesn't happen. And I think in golf, we're so desperate for someone to be there every time we turn the TV on, to have that rooting interest in somebody that is going to be there week in. And again, I'm not saying play every week. They play a lot of tournaments. There's a lot of tournaments on the schedule. I'm not saying you have to play every week. But when you are there should be an expectation for you to play well if you're a certain caliber player. And I think as golf fans, we shouldn't lower our expectations just because. Granted, I think expecting them to be Tiger Woods is probably too high of a goal, Mm-hmm. But I just don't think that it's unreasonable to expect these guys, when they are there at a tournament, to play well.
And by playing well, it's at least make the cut. At least make the cut.
That's the
missing a cut is not acceptable.
No, it's just not. It's just not for the top 15 players in the world.
Agreed. 100%. Agreed.
So that was quite the tangent, but I loved it.
Whew, I know. I'll tell you what.
Do you feel better? Do you feel like you need a cigarette or something? Do you feel better?
I could go for a cigar.
Yeah, I hear that.
I don't know if I'll do the cigarette thing, but I'd go for a cigar.
Oh, I miss it. Have you had one in a while?
I just got some Cubans from
real ones?
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
Why have we not met and had these?
Hey, because you have 9 kids and
it's not 9.
Your schedule's too tight.
I asked you last weekend, and you had stuff to do.
I know. What excuse did I give you?
You didn't give me any. You said you'd get back. You said you'd get back.
I
to
can't
me,
remember. Yeah, we did. I did. You're right. We did have something going on though. But you're right. I did not get back to you.
It's fine. I take my payments in the form of Cuban cigars. So there you go. Sounds like it worked out.
All right. We can make. I got one for you. All
right. I appreciate
that. You know that. You know that.
Good. I would hope so.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what? We're gonna get 2 inches of rain these next 2 days, but it's gonna be mid 40s.
Hey,
boy, is there a break in the rain?
Just give me an hour.
It's time. Starting to get the little itch, a little. I need the golf tingles.
I need to play more golf this year.
That's amen to that, brother. You sure do.
I need to do it for the content. is really what I need to do it for.
Yeah, it's research.
That's right. But so that was a good tangent. I
I
enjoyed
know.
it.
I am a little tired. That took.
So let's switch gears not too far, but
Okay.
so I don't even know what it's called, but the tournament in Saudi Arabia is happening this week. Every time this tournament rolls around, all the golf writers get all hot and bothered, I think justifiably so, that there's certain people in the field who take a very large sum of money to go over to this country and play golf and say nice things about them. And given Phil Mickelson just came out with some public comments in a Golf Digest article talking about, he was kind of asked directly, have you been contacted by these other golf leagues that are popping up? You know, what is your sort of future? And he didn't answer directly about that, but he's essentially said everyone in the top 100 has been contacted in one way or another. And then he proceeded to rant about how selfish the PGA Tour is with keeping digital rights of players' swings and players, media rights and, their rights to digital, IP essentially. Saying that, the reason we don't have mics on caddies and players is because why would the players want to make the PGA Tour more money when they don't make any money out of it? So essentially calling someone selfish because you can't make more money is kind of, it's a little bit Philly to do. It's kind of a Phil Mickelson thing to say.
Phil is not
I know
holding his tongue. Yeah,
I know I'm selfish, but you're more selfish. So that's what I have to say. But every time this tournament comes around, the golf writers write their articles about how these guys go over there. They take millions of dollars to talk about how Saudi Arabia is, trying to do better. And I've seen, women driving, or all this BS that really isn't true about this country. And I heard a writer on a podcast bring up, would these golfers go to this country if they had essentially murdered like a golfer from the Asian tour? Like, not anybody high profile, but right. We all know the story about the journalist that was, murdered in Saudi Arabia by the government because of the, the articles that he had written, talking about how bad the government was and all the things that they did wrong. So the writers essentially say, like, what if one of your colleagues was murdered in this country? Would you take their money to say nice things about them and then go play their golf tournament? And then the golfers inevitably come back with, well, I'm not a politician. I'm just here to grow the game. And I've seen, I see great things. Then they're really trying their best. They're really trying hard to do better and be better. And I've seen myself how much effort they're putting into this, which isn't true. But it always makes me think, like, what side do I take in this particular argument? And I think and they always throw out like the ones, if you really press them, they'll be like, well, like our government isn't that great, right? Or China's government where we play tournaments isn't that great. Or the Japanese haven't been like saints, their entire life where we play golf. And that's true. There's no denying that. But like when the US guys play in the Ryder Cup, the United States government doesn't pay them to to play the tournament and then show up on TV and go, gosh, the United States is just the greatest country. The other day I saw an Asian person in a supermarket, or like some stupid thing that they might come up with to make, the country sound better. Right. So I think it crosses the line for me when it gets to that these guys essentially have to go out there and be puppets for the government, and say all these nice things. I can't say anything about if they want to go take $22 million to just play in a golf tournament and show up. That inevitably comes with having to not say anything bad about them. But it kind of crosses the line for me when they just have to go out and they look like the monkeys with the cymbals and the hats on, like with the, when the guy is playing the music Like they go out there and they just look so stupid. They look uneducated. They look uninformed. And they just look like the greedy bastards that they are. And
because they probably are uninformed. You're right. You're right. They're doing exactly what they're told to do for a boatload of money. Like, I'm going to take a shit ton of money. They're going to treat me like a king while I'm there.
Yep.
I'm going to play golf for 4 days and then come home. Yeah, I don't, are they fully informed with the ins and outs, or are they just, they fly in, they get their check, they play golf, and they leave? And I think it's as simple as that. Like, I don't know if it's any, I don't know if it gets any more in depth.
I think it's
than
as
that.
simple as that in their heads.
In their minds, it's.
And I think that could be the excuse if every time, like if not for the weeks leading up to this tournament, every time we hear someone else is going there, the media says, "Why are you going there? Don't you know of all these things that have happened? Why are you going to go over there and tell us that, this country is doing so great in terms of their humanitarian things?" When the truth is they're not. Right? They're just not. Saudi Arabia is not a great place. So, and then I think when you go over there and it's so obvious what you're doing, and it's so obvious that you're just sort of puppeteering around, as this circus monkey for a few days. I don't know. At some point I'm like, don't you have enough money? Like, can't you just go do something else?
Yeah. Like playing the tournaments over.
Yeah. There's a tournament this week, right?
Yeah.
Can't you just go do something else? Go do like a sponsor video or something, right? You'll make some money off of that. It's tough for me when they try to defend themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. That's just how I feel about it. I'm curious what you think, or if you haven't thought about it, that's okay, because you really don't have to put that much thought into it. But.
I haven't gotten super involved in it. I don't really watch. I know they they cover it on the the Golf Channel, and so I don't really watch, but I think, kind of how I said, I think it's very surface for them. They get flown out there, private jet.
Yeah.
They're treated like absolute royalty. They get a big old check. They play golf. They go back to the resort or hotel. They have fine dining at any luxury at their disposal, and then they go home. And that's the extent of it. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I don't know what's going to change anything. I don't know what's going to, especially in these golfers, they're pretty one-track mind. You don't see too many golfers like out in, for human rights and politics and things like that. So I don't know if that's in their thought process.
Do you think it needs to be? Because I'll give an example, maybe just to put it in some context for everybody. So Lewis Hamilton is a pretty famous race car driver for Formula One. They have a race in Saudi Arabia. So the Formula One goes to a track in Saudi Arabia. His team, Mercedes, participates in that race, and so does he. Lewis does not get paid any extra, to show up to that race, right? Everybody goes. It's like part of the season. Lewis Hamilton, the last time they were there, spoke out publicly, that he really thinks that the governing body should really consider not having this race in this country. He said it on TV, to media members, because of the human rights, atrocities that have happened, blah, 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 blah. So there's an example of again, it might be different because Lewis doesn't get specifically paid to go there, right? He goes there as a part of his sport. it's like if the NBA, right, had a random, when they go to NBA China, or the NBA plays a couple games in China, right? China doesn't have a great humanitarian track record, obviously, but the NBA players aren't getting paid more to go to China to play that specific game. So I think it's kind of where it diverges, but just being a part of it didn't stop Lewis Hamilton from saying something about it. But the difference might be that he didn't get paid by the government to go there. So he can't, obviously if you get paid by somebody and then go behind their back and talk, shit about them, it's probably not going to go over well. But it's just tough when they just look so stupid. They look so dumb when they go on TV and are just like, I'm just here to grow the game. Like, come on.
Yeah. And
Seriously?
and that's what they have to, and that's what they're going to convince themselves
Yeah.
of. I'm pretty sure was it last year or 2 years ago when DJ won over there? I think they asked him, and you're right. He sounded, I think it's nice. I think they're doing,
Yeah, right.
I think they're doing some good things. Yeah, like they don't know they're there.
I saw a woman on the sidewalk yesterday.
Yeah, so it's a tough subject, and I don't want to say too much because I don't know how qualified I am and to speak too much about it.
Neither of us are. I think it's just interesting. It's, go out and read the smarter people who have written articles about it. And
yeah, it is interesting. And then that's the whole, that's the whole thing. They're an athlete. Should they be anything other than an athlete? Is it, where's that line of when players do need to step out? Like, technically, yeah, I'm here to play golf. I wasn't brought in to talk about, humanitarian projects and stuff. Like, I was here to brought golf and promote golf. Where is that line that they cross into where they're, gonna also speak out on those other things? I don't know.
That's a good point.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's always just an interesting thing around, this week when all the articles start getting written and all the interviews start happening and all that stuff. So
yeah,
obviously go read smarter people than us too, who know more about it.
Yeah. Formulate your own opinion and let us know. And
just an interesting thing happening, this week in golf.
It's worth bringing up, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Golf doesn't really get into all the shit behind the scenes, even with their players. When you look, even the PGA Tour, when a player gets in trouble or does something,
they don't disclose anything.
It's swept under the rug, man. Yeah. It's
Dustin Johnson cocaine.
Yeah, but was turned into a 6 month 6 month absence,
right? Medical leave, right?
Due to personal reasons.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Like, no, bro, you're doing cocaine.
Yeah.
Like, you're a drug addict.
He slipped down the stairs at his Augusta house, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, he was really high and didn't know what was going on.
And again, like, never to. I'm the biggest Tiger fan there is, but some of that stuff he got himself into, we don't know the full extent. Like, it's very, you look into some of the other celebrity news outlets, you get a little bit of information, but if you look strictly from the PGA Tour and the golf outlets, like,
nothing.
Yep. Nothing.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of how it goes. Again, form your own opinions, read smarter people than us. I just thought it was something to bring up. We are a golf podcast. It is the tournament is happening this week. A lot of the articles and interviews, start coming out on this Monday, Tuesday, because the guys are already over there. Obviously the media is there. to ask them those questions. So
Yeah,
it
and they
always
will. It'll be interesting to hear what they have to say because journalists, they'll ask them. So what do you think about all the other
right.
shit that's going on over here?
Yeah.
Are you still comfortable coming to play golf and promote the country?
Yeah.
They'll ask. It'll be interesting to see what some of those guys have to say.
Yeah. Eamon Lynch of Golf Week wrote a really good article about it. Definitely go check that one out is one I would recommend. And just search Saudi Arabian golf articles. You'll find plenty of them. But, we'll transition a little bit into a player who is playing in Saudi Arabia, big old Bryson. But the reason I bring up Bryson is because a few weeks ago, after a show, like right around, when the PGA Tour had kind of ended and the new season was getting ready to start, you had brought up some of the rule changes that were going to be happening for this season. In particular, the removal of green reading books as a sort of allowable piece of equipment on the golf course. And we just, we had a couple other things to talk about. We didn't bring it up, but I think we're still early enough into this season to start talking about it, especially with, April coming up and how difficult greens are going to be at that tournament that we love so much. And even other golfers have spoken out on how this removal of green books might affect some of their colleagues. So it's certainly an interesting thing to bring up. And I think there's a couple other rule changes that happen, but since you brought this up, sort of, why don't you walk us through some of the ones that stuck out to you and kind of what you think about how they're going to affect different people?
Yeah, so the two big ones are, and I don't even know if this first one's a big one or not. As the search continues for more distance and hitting bombs, as Phil would say, the USGA has limited your driver length to where some of these guys were looking into 48-inch drivers. Typical drivers 45 and a half. So adding an extra 2 inches to your driver may not seem like a lot, but you're talking 10, 15, 20 yards extra depending on how you swing. And in fact, Phil won his PGA. He was using a 47.5-inch driver.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Bryson was messing around with longer drivers. Justin Rose was messing around with longer
Will
drivers.
Zalatoris had a longer driver this week.
Did he?
Yeah. It was like a 40. I think he was usually at 45. I think he was using like a 46 and a half.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm trying. I think it's. I don't know the exact measurements, but that actually that might be. He might have been right on the exact allowable length.
Yeah.
So this really is rubbing Phil the wrong way. His tweet from
46 inches is the cap.
Is the cap. So
yep.
Will was that okay?
46.
So
yep.
Yeah, and I think standard is like 45 and a half. So they're
Yeah.
giving you an extra half inch, which
I mean, but they were looking to put in like 48, right?
48.
Bryson was talking about
48's Bryce. Yeah, Phil used 47 and a half. It's just one of those things. It's like, okay, whatever. But where do you stop? What rule? Like, where do they come up with these rules? It's like,
I mean,
you read things like, hey, you guys aren't allowed to lift weights anymore. We can't, you're not allowed to be too strong, or, the equipment.
Yeah. See, I think
the equipment is going to be an issue. But really it's these golf balls. These golf balls are so high tech. You're going to shorten the driver. I don't know how I feel about everything because there's so much other stuff. Like I don't know. I mean, if you can get out there and you can control a 48-inch driver, good for you, man. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think what a lot of people are saying, or at least what I've heard when this topic is brought up, is that because driver faces and golf balls are so advanced, like when someone would try and pull out a 47-inch driver 15 years ago, it came with a certain amount of risk, right?
yeah,
Okay,
huge
if
risk. I mean,
there's a skill gap there, right? If you are someone who can go out there and use it and control it, then good for you, right? Go for it. You know, you've developed a skill to be able to control something that is uncontrollable. I think now with how drivers are, produced, with how golf balls don't spin as much, that sort of skill gap is essentially gone. Like it doesn't require you to use any greater skill to swing a golf club that a driver that is that long than it does someone else using a shorter one. So I think that's where people are seeing it as like, well, there's no risk, there's no downside. And they're like, and it doesn't take any particular skill to do it because this stuff is manufactured in a way that reduces spin, reduces the left or right variance of golf shots. And again, this gets into the whole golf ball thing. Is distance becoming a problem, in golf in general? And we could get into a whole podcast just about that stuff if we really wanted to. But I think for me, it comes down to, if you want to take on something like that, there should be a risk associated with it. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's
Bryson uses those one length irons, right? And there's a risk. He doesn't have the same control of his wedge game as people who use, well, quote unquote, normal wedges. Them being so long doesn't allow for the same sort of stuff. So I think he takes on that risk because he thinks he has the skill to overcome it. So I don't know. That's just, what I have heard from other people. And I think I tend to agree if you had to ask me.
Yeah. So Phil says, rolling back the driver to 46 inches. This is pathetic. First, he says it promotes a shorter, more violent swing. So you become more injury prone. It does not allow for length of arc to create speed. And during our first golf boom in 40 years, our amateur governing body keeps trying to make it less fun. So Phil is fully in the mindset, let's just hit the ball as far as we possibly can and put on a show for people. And Phil the Thrill, he's that's his mindset. And I think some of that has to do with him being 50 and still being able to keep up with these guys. I think there's a little something to that he'll take any advantage he can get
for sure
to keep up with these guys as a 50-year-old. It's just, where do these rules go from here? Like, are they going to keep imposing different things? I'm curious, like a Matt Kuchar or a Will Zalatoris, or these other guys with these arm lock Bryson, these long arm lock putters. Several years ago they took away the anchoring to your chest and to your belly, and that affected a lot of guys.
Yeah.
I mean, there were guys that were winning that way and haven't really won since.
Webb Simpson, Adam Scott,
Keegan Bradley.
Yep.
I see the arm lock. I don't know if I agree with the arm lock thing. I mean, that's anchoring the putter. You're anchoring the putter to your arm.
Yeah.
So, guys like that are anchored in that to your arm, do you think they put in time practicing the traditional way, because at any point in time the USGA could be like, you know what, that is anchoring. We're doing away with it.
Yeah.
The driver length, I'm not too concerned with the driver length because these golf balls go so freaking far. You know, adding more length to your driver, and I know it's just, you know, how they're just going to keep making up rules, and people are always going to make rules that you disagree with forever. Like the rest of your life, you're going to have rules that you don't agree with. But and to someone like Phil, you know, that's a big deal for him.
Yeah.
And then I think a majority of the guys could care less. But anyway, that's the first rule. You know, backing down 46-inch driver. And yeah, the second one, I don't know how much time do we have left. I feel like this could be a rabbit hole of conversation with these. So maybe
we're at 56 right now.
all right, so we might have to just touch on it, throw it out there, and maybe we dive into it.
I mean, I think we can bring it back up when right before the Masters.
Yeah,
I think
but
that's where it's going to be
essentially
the biggest deal.
Essentially, these guys reading these green reading books that they have, and some of the work that they do on the greens with levels and slope meters and all that stuff is supposedly going away. They need to have committee approved yardage books and green reading books. How they're going to monitor all that, I have no idea. Golf is a gentleman's game. It's a game of honesty. But with honesty and integrity comes loopholes. And,
Yeah.
you know,
So look, I think
it's going to be a shit show trying to regulate all these yardage books and green reading books. And I think that's going to cause more of a headache than anything, because these guys will find other ways to store that information.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. They're like nothing stopping you from drawing a picture of the green in your yardage book and like drawing some arrows every day, you know, of where the slopes are breaking or where the pin placements are going to be. I know. I mean, I know Augusta took him out last year, right? They took away the green reading books. And you know, some people didn't play well. I think the goal is admirable. I think really they're trying to get guys to speed up and not just be sitting there looking at these little books, you know. And I think that even John Rahm has come out and said that green reading should be a skill as a professional golfer. It's a skill that you have to hone and constantly improve at. And it should be something that you don't have to rely on just flipping open your book and knowing how the green's going to break. And I tend to agree with that. I think as a professional, you know, that's fair.
Yeah, 100%.
I think we're still yet to see if it's going to affect anybody.
But you know, the funny thing is, in golf, when they say golf is a game of inches, like affecting somebody a half a stroke or a full stroke every round, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
and
it is.
I mean, that's the thing. It's not like other sports where, you know, you can cover up some deficiencies or some, but in like golf, it comes down to, and again, I agree with getting rid of some of this stuff. Like, get the game back to as pure as it can be.
Yeah.
Like, just go out and play golf
And get it moving,
right?
Like speed it up.
Yeah, speed it up. Get out and just play some golf. So I 100% agree with getting rid of as much material as possible. You know, keep it simple, stupid. Go out and just play. But at the same time, like, there's going to be guys that truly believe that those books give them at least a shot or half a shot advantage every round,
for sure.
and you take that away from them, it'll be a situation for a while, but I think it's good for the game. Like, get rid of some of this shit and just go out and play.
Yeah, 1,000% with you on that. I think it'll be interesting to watch, particularly at Augusta, while they figure out the rest of this stuff. Augusta is unique because they can make their own rules. So they said they're out, right? The Greens Readings books were out last year. They'll be gone this year. I think it'll be interesting in a few more years to see how did golfers do 5 years before this happened, the 5 years leading up to this at Augusta, and how did they do the 5 years after this was taken away. You would think at a place like Augusta, it's so, the people who usually win are people who know that course and know those greens like the back of their hand. Mm-hmm. It's not generally people who rely on those books. They don't rely on, it's course knowledge. It should be, Augusta comes down to a lot of course knowledge. But it will be interesting if people have sort of been skating by and, turning course knowledge, just from getting course knowledge just from these little books. It'll be interesting to see if there's any trend that sort of sticks out in the next few years. It'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see, somebody coming off a bad round, how much they bitch about it.
That'll be fun too.
So, and sometimes, especially on those hot mics that the golfers are walking by.
That's right.
They always tend to be complaining about something when they walk by the live mics.
Now with the Netflix mics, we'll see what they can pick up when those Netflix guys are walking by people.
There we go.
Oh man. Well, this
Hey, you said we were going to be jumping all over the place.
We told you we would be jumping all over the place. We did not, we stayed true to form. I thought it's great. That's, we say it all the time, but the point of this podcast is to make it be, as we always say, like a conversation you'd be having with your buddy in the golf cart while you're having a beer on the golf course, right? Our conversations on the golf course never stick to one thing. We're all over the place. It changes as we get out of the golf cart and come back into it. We're like, what were we talking about last time? Okay, let's talk about something else. That's how it is, right? So I love it when these podcasts can portray exactly what it would be like if we were just out shooting the shit on the course together. So good stuff as always. Banksy, thanks for looking up that rule stuff. Thanks for bringing it up again. I think it'll be really interesting to watch as we move forward, how it affects people, how it, what comments come out about it as we get closer and closer to Augusta and afterwards, as they start to maybe enforce some of this stuff, however they might enforce it. We're still, who knows how they're actually going to enforce it. But to everybody out there, we appreciate you listening. We appreciate you watching. Be sure to check us out on YouTube. Just go on YouTube, search Birdies and Beer Podcast. We'll be the first channel that pops up. So be sure you subscribe, leave a like on the video, leave a comment on the video. Let us know what you think about the YouTube videos. Let us know what you think about the Saudi Arabia event. Let us know what you think about the rules that are changing. Any golf thoughts that you might have on any of the episodes, please be sure to let us know. We really appreciate that. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at the Two-Way Miss. We're getting closer and closer to Augusta. We'll be tweeting a bunch, obviously, during that tournament. As we get into Riviera here, I'm sure we'll be watching that closely. We'll be putting out some tweets about that. And then when the two of us get together, we'll be throwing some videos up on the YouTube and the Twitter account. So be sure you're following all of those things so you don't miss anything. But with that, we'll say goodnight to everybody. We hope you can join us next week for another episode of the Two-Way Miss. And thank you always to Banks, and we'll catch you next time.
They swing hard, everybody.
Oh, it's not a cut. That's a slice.
Now this is a quack hook.
Oh,
Short
wow.
and into the right rough, headed to the trees.